ghouls and things that go bump in the night. I bet most of you know by now that I am a huge fan of cryptids. You know, Mothman, Shadow People, there's a ton. I could list them all, but you know what I'm talking about. So, when I came across this story, I had to share it with you guys. So, why don't you settle in and relax, for I didn't believe they actually existed. There have been rumors for as long as I can remember about some kind of strange creature living in the forests around this town. I didn't believe this thing actually existed. That all changed the night I had my own terrifying encounter. Like many that live here, I work in the mining sector. The mine I work at is little more than 100 kilometers from town, or about an hour drive through dense forest. Though I regularly see deer, bears, and other wildlife at the side of the highway on my way to and from work, I had never seen the creature some others in town claimed to have seen. It was on my way home from work one night when I finally had my own encounter. The sun had already set by the time I left work. There had been some major issues at the mine that day, which meant that I had to work overtime. By the time I left the mine, I was stressed out, tired, and just wanted to get home. I drove down the nearly empty highway back into town, the orange glow of the streetlights washing through my car windows one by one as I passed them. Lining both sides of the highway was the thick forest, the trees only visible as black, jagged shadows rising up into the night sky. Suddenly, there was a loud pop, and my car began tugging to the left. I felt panic well up inside my chest as I realized my front left tire had blown out. Despite my terror, I managed to remain calm and carefully guided the car to the right side of the road. Once my vehicle was stopped, I turned on the emergency flashers and let out a long sigh of relief. I got the spare tire and tools out of my trunk and set about taking off the damaged wheel of my car. The first few lug nuts came off without much difficulty, but one of them was really fastened on tightly. I twisted the lug wrench as hard as I could, but the nut would not move. As I was fighting with the stuck lug nut, I was suddenly illuminated by the headlights of an approaching vehicle. I turned my gaze to the lights and saw a white pickup truck heading down the highway toward me. It began to slow and pull over to the side of the road behind my car. I felt fear rise up inside me again. Was this person stopping at the side of the road, coming to help me or hurt me? I was out in the middle of the wilderness, and my vehicle had a flat tire. If this person was planning to harm me, I had little chance of escape. A tall, muscular man got out of the truck. I guess he was maybe 20 years older than me, so maybe in his mid-50s. He had short gray hair parted on the left side of his head and a neatly trimmed gray beard. He was wearing jeans, a green t-shirt, and work boots. "Need some help?" he called out as he approached me. I felt very nervous being stranded at the side of the road with a stranger, but also didn't want to reject his offer if he was truly there to help me. I really did need the help, after all. "Yeah, I blew the front left tire out, and I can't get one of these lug nuts off." "Want me to give it a try?" the man asked as he continued walking towards me. "Sure, go ahead," I said, handing him the tire wrench. It turns out I didn't have to be afraid of the man. He introduced himself as Gord, and he really was just being a good Samaritan. He easily got the lug nut off, and within a few minutes we had the spare tire on my vehicle. "Thanks, man," I said, extending my hand. "I really appreciate all your help." "No problem," said Gord, reaching out and shaking my hand. There was a loud crack in the woods across the highway, like a branch snapping. A very big branch. Both Gord and I turned and looked in the direction of the sound. We stared at the dark foliage for a few seconds and listened. A second crack echoed out of the forest. My throat went dry. I suddenly felt very exposed and vulnerable. I think we should probably get going," I said. "I agree," said Gord. "Thanks again for your help." I got into my car and looked into the rearview mirror at Gord as he climbed into his truck. Just as Gord turned on his engine, I noticed a massive creature dashing out across the highway towards him. It was hard to see in detail, since it was only illuminated from behind by a streetlight, but I could see that the creature walked upright on two legs like a human. It was definitely not human, though. It stood over 2.5 meters tall and was almost entirely covered with hair. It was a Sasquatch. With its huge stride, the Sasquatch took only 3 steps to cross the 2-lane highway. As it arrived beside Gord's truck, it raised its long arms up over its head and clenched its fists. With a loud bang, the Sasquatch slammed its fist down onto the roof of the truck cabin, right over Gord's seat. The cabin roof buckled and the windshield exploded outwards, spraying shards of glass all over the hood of the truck. I heard the sound of tires screeching and saw smoke rise up behind Gord's truck. The truck burst forward, swerving around my vehicle and back onto the highway lane. As Gord's truck sped into the distance ahead of me, the smell of burning rubber wafted through my vehicle. I sat still in my car with my mouth open and eyes wide, watching the beast in my rearview mirror. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The stories that I heard were true. The Sasquatch turned its head to look at my car and let out a guttural growl. I couldn't make out its facial features in the dark, so I didn't know if it could see me sitting inside of my vehicle. Was it planning to attack my car next? I didn't want to find out. I fumbled with my key until the engine started and slammed my foot on the gas pedal. My tires squealed as they skidded on the road, my car lurching forward as they gained traction on the pavement. As I sped off down the highway, I didn't look back to see if the creature was trying to follow me. I didn't want to see it again. And that, listeners, is the story I didn't believe they actually existed. Have you ever seen a Sasquatch or any other cryptid? If so, I would love to hear about it. You can send me an email at hauntedhorrorstorian@gmail.com, or, as always, you can find me on Facebook at Haunted Horrorstorian Podcast, or on our special group, Haunted Horrorstorians, Ghosts, Ghouls, and Things That Go Bump. Until next time, listeners, make sure you check out the woods, stay spooky, and remember, sometimes it's more than just a story.